What's up, everybody? It's Dave Payerchin and RJ Pepino from the Cream Cash Flow Real Estate and Money. We're bringing a very cool video for you today. We're getting into community banking, local banks. This is what we're talking about. We use a lot of local banks for our refis, for our bird deals, and we are going to be breaking down what are the top 10 questions you should be asking any community banker before doing business with them. We're going to teach you how to basically present yourself to a bank so you are very bankable. This is very important for our real estate businesses. And what we want you guys to be able to do is get the max LTV on your refis and the best terms on money. And these questions to ask a community banker are certainly going to point you in the right direction. As always, if you're an entrepreneur, you get value from this video or our channel, please subscribe. Please share the video with anyone else you might think would value or benefit from our content. And without further ado, RJ, let's get into the questions that we would ask a community banker. Or maybe first off, describe why community banks might be a better fit than more national lenders who provide what we've talked about on this channel, DSCR loans. Why work with a community bank, RJ?
Yeah, so we just got back from an amazing conference learning about community banking. A lot of it was stuff that we already know, but then we also have some things that we learned. You always learn, right, when you go to these conferences. And the stance that we take when we're talking to community banks is that we're interviewing them to see if they're a good fit for us. So it's like, you want to have basically this because they need you. This is how banks make money. And the smaller banks, I'm talking about the not the regional banks, but the smaller community banks are looking for ways to make money. How do banks make money? They got to do loans. And what loans do they want to put out for or lend on? It's real estate. It's what you have. It's affordable housing. It's a tenant that's paying monthly on a lease, right? So they're looking at ways to grow the deposits. And community banks, local ones, are great to use because you have a one-on-one relationship with their VP of commercial lending. You can pick up the phone and call them, and typically it's like there's no red tape. You can go to their office. Typically they only have like maybe one location, maybe even two, right? And their terms are really good. They have 20, 25, and 30-year terms. And the reason why you want to have that is because that's going to affect your cash flow. When you spread out your payments for a longer term duration, that means more cash flow for you. And then also too, what we've found what we learn, and we'll share this, is that they're a little bit more flexible on their lending terms. And so you can move properties around. You basically, in that, let's just say you have a package of 5 properties that you're refinancing. You could work it out with them and negotiate that maybe one of those properties in that loan can be sold without any prepayment penalties or any high fees associated with that. Because as we all know, there's appreciation. And sometimes the property that you're buying at such a good discount in 2 to 3 or 4 years might have $20,000 to $30,000 in equity because you held on to this asset. And so you want to have that flexibility with these local banks because they're more flexible than the regional, and then the bigger banks like Chase, they don't even they're going to be like, get out of here, you know what I mean? Like, they're not even going to talk to you because they're just they took your money and they're investing it in all kinds of stuff. They don't have a package for you. They don't have programs for the real estate investors. It's mainly for the retail type buyers, that are using conventional loans to buy real estate like as their personal residence, right? So these are the questions, and a lot of this is it's common sense, but as we all know, common sense isn't common practice. A lot of this is going to be a good review, but remember, you want to have that stance of, I'm interviewing you. I've got a good product, which is real estate. You're an operator, right? So a couple things that you want to do is make sure that, before you go into this interview, you want to make sure you know a little bit of history from this bank. And you can gain a lot of that from places like, Google, right? We've got AI now, so you can literally type in like, hey, give me some info on this bank. There's a resource that Dave is going to share a little bit later where you can basically peek into their financials and see who you're dealing with. Okay. But without further ado, I'm going to also add some things that you could do with the social media. This is all stuff that we've learned. But the first question that I have is, and this is interview style, is what does your deposit and banking relationships look like? What does your deposit banking? So when you go and deposit your check, right? What does that look like? So what you're really looking for is, do they have good relationships with other small businesses that are like yourself? Are they making deposits in frequently? Do they have a good frequency of that? And do they, are they, do they charge any fees for that? You know what I mean? Like, you're looking for things that would be advantageous for you because you probably have your money in Chase and you're going to transfer some of those deposits into this local bank.
Exactly. A lot of
Right?
these local banks are going to want you to put deposits with them if they're doing business with you on your real estate loans. So you want to know what their deposit processes are. Do they do ACH? Do they do direct deposit? Who am I going to be working with if I have an issue? How do you guys do the online check scanning, stuff like that? If you're going to be rolling your funds over to a local community bank, you need to know what the deposit process is going to look like and the service they provide along those lines. Because again, a lot of these community banks are going to expect and pretty much make you deposit money with the bank if they're going to fulfill your real estate loans. So you want to know what the process is going to look like.
Yeah. Next question. What type of rates and terms, right? Pretty obvious, but you want to understand what type of programs they have, right? And so does it align with your goals? Now, you're doing a BRRRR, we teach the BRRRR. So you want to see what type of refinancing loans they have. They might even have loans that are a little unique. So you want to make sure you understand how these are set up, what terms are, what loan to value is. Loan to value is how much you can borrow against the property's appraised value. You want to get all of that, what interest rates, and then terms. Let's talk about terms. So sometimes they, what we found with regional banks or even the national lenders is that there's a, yield maintenance that you need to carry on the actual loan for like 5 to 10 years. Is that something that you want, right? Are you handicapped because of that?
Yeah, pretty much, the general terms, and we've talked about this in previous videos. So if you've not watched our previous videos, make sure you check it out. But hey, what is the interest rate? Sounds obvious, but you want to know that. What is the amortization? Is it 20, 25, or 30? And as RJ already mentioned, the longer the loan, a 30-year loan is going to carry a lower payment than a 20-year loan, but a 20-year loan is going to pay off more principal faster than a 30-year loan. So this, what is their program? You find out the interest rate, you find out the amortization schedule, 20, 25, or 30. You find out about any prepayment penalties, right? And then you find out about the LTV, the loan to value. So if your property is worth, 100, 70% LTV would be a $70,000 loan. 75% LTV is 75,000 on 100,000 valued property. What is the loan to value? That is pretty much the general terms you're going to be kind of talking about. And then as RJ kind of mentioned as well, everything's negotiable. When it comes to if you have a blanket loan of 5 properties, you can negotiate with a community bank and say, okay, give me the ability to sell off one of these properties in the portfolio. And then you could recapture without paying any prepayment penalties. You can kind of like harvest that equity if it makes sense. Because maybe if you got 5 properties, one of these properties was in a regentrifying area, path of progress. Over a couple of years, it shoots up 20% in value. You're like, hell, I want to close this thing. I want to sell it and use that cash elsewhere, but you don't want to be penalized to do that. So you can negotiate a prepayment penalty basically on the portfolio of 5 properties, but you're given grace to sell 1 property out of 5 at your discretion without any fees or prepayment penalties. And only a community bank is going to do this stuff with you and kind of negotiate. As RJ also mentioned, a national lender, your Lima One, Corvest, these big, national institutional lenders, Chase, for God's sake, Citibank, Bank of America, they're not negotiating this stuff. It has to come from a community bank. What's the next question, RJ?
Next question is, what are you looking for in your borrowing customers? Key thing. What are you looking for? Are they looking for a experienced balance sheet? Basically, have you done this before? Do you have rental properties now? Sometimes they'll say, yeah, we're heavily on credit. We're really heavily on credit score. Sometimes they'll it just depends. It doesn't matter. What you're really trying to do is you're going to be asking these questions to see if they're a good fit for you, because you got to look for things like ease of doing business. So if they're asking all of these financials, which you got to weigh out the options. Yeah, they're asking for my PFS, which is personal financial statement. They're asking for these docs. This is all normal stuff, but they're asking for certain things that are like out of the normal, like your wife's personal financial statement. Like, okay, that's a little. It's not related to any of this, right? So that's a good question. What are you looking for in borrowing customers? Because now you know what it's going to take to do business with that bank. Anything to say on that, Dave?
Sure. Every single lender, I don't care if it's a private lender, a bank, institution, every single lender, their main concern is getting their money back. So if you can continue to show your track record, show a bank that you borrowed a ton of even private money and paid it all back, that's what they're going to want to see. So
next question is, what does your committee, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, go ahead.
What does your committee process look like? Who's involved in making the decisions, basically? Is it at the, you want to be talking to the VP, which typically that's the decision maker. Is there board members that he needs to meet? Does it take a quarter to do underwriting and, get an explanation? Like, you want to see how quickly they can make a decision. One of our students who just closed a big deal with us, we referred a lender that they're great, and they have a very simple process. It's give me this, and that, and it's a yes or no. Well, the previous lender that they were using had a committee process that was terrible, and they ended up losing that business. And now, it's sometimes you got to understand how ease of doing business is with that local bank to see if it's a good fit for you. Again, you have the leverage here, you have the properties, you have a product that they want. So that's a good question. Anything on that, Dave?
No, it's just you want to understand the process. Really, how long is it going to take for you to evaluate this loan and give me an answer on what you can do? And most banks have some type of decision-making process. They probably meet once a week. So you just want to understand what their decision-making process looks like.
Yeah, I like this next question. And it really gets them thinking of, man, I've got somebody here that's pretty savvy. They're talking to other banks. They're actively looking, in a job. It's kind of it's an interview basically. But it's what makes your bank different from all the other local lenders in the area. So just so you know, there's hundreds of local lenders in your area, in Columbus, in Newark, in Lancaster, right? They're not the only local bank. So when you ask that question, it really makes them think of like, okay, this is a really good question. And then they're going to be explaining the benefits of their banking, probably a little bit of their history, their core values, all this kind of stuff. And that's where you want them thinking. So then you ask that question, it's like, all right, you're going to be getting the advantages of banking in that local bank. You're going to get to know them a little bit too, which is cool. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, it also kind of, puts them on their toes a little bit because it lets them know that there's other banks out there. So it makes them kind of know that there's competition out there. So now's your chance to sell yourself on what makes you different, because it kind of implies and postures you as the borrower that you're talking to other local banks as well.
Yeah. You also want to ask them what their legal lending limit is. So what we've experienced is that typically with these small local lenders, small local banks, they have an allotment of funding that they got to place. It could be anywhere from 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. And so you want to know what type of capital they're looking to deploy. And it's not uncommon to ask that, and so, you want to ask them what appetite, what their lending limit is, like what capital they're working with. Now, Dave's going to share a little resource so you can actually use to figure out what who you're talking to, as far as it's almost like skip tracing a bank and finding out their financials.
Yeah, so there's this service out there,
Um,
everybody. The name of the service is Veribank, Veribanc, Veribank.com. Small company. I believe they're based out of Rhode Island. If you call them right now, somebody with a Rhode Island accent is going to answer the phone and say, "What do you need?" They're very old school, but they basically pull all the reports. See, every bank, community bank, national bank, it doesn't matter, regional bank, all of them have to send reports quarterly to the Federal Reserve. This is how it all works. So this company compiles these reports and makes it available for the public. So if you're basically courting a bank for real estate loans, you could get all their reports from previous quarters, and you're going to know more about that bank than likely the people who work at the bank. You're going to know all the bad paper that they're holding on their books, all the types of loans that they did in previous quarters. You're going to be able to see if they're working with other borrowers like you, what types of loans they're doing, what types of stuff they're lending on. So you get all of this ammo and ammunition. It's going to make you a very well, knowledgeable borrower. Again, I mean, all their dirty laundry. It just puts you in a spot where when you start presenting some of this data to the bank, they're not going to believe their ears on how educated you are on the bank. And it's really just going to help you and posture you as a very knowledgeable and strong borrower and business person.
Yeah.
So that resource
and
is
so
Veribank, Veribanc.com.
this is not, nobody's talking about this. Okay, this is stuff that when we mentioned this at the conference, everyone was like, "What is that?" That no one knew about this, and the reason why is because we learned this from somebody that was doing business back in the 70s and 80s. It's no longer alive. This is out there for you. So if you didn't get that, if you're listening to this recording, definitely go back and get that. But it's Veribank with a C. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Dave. The next question is, what is the bank lending on right now? You want to kind of see what they're up to, what appetite they have, what is getting approved, right? So is it single family? Is it small multifamily? Do they have an appetite for duplexes or bigger apartment complexes? So you got to understand like what they're looking for. So you know that maybe for right now you don't have something, and even if you don't have what they're looking for, you can tell them what they have, because they might change their appetite in the next quarter. They have, as you know, and earlier in this I said that that's how they make money. They got to place capital to make money, right? Otherwise, they're going to go out of business. So you got to understand what their appetite is. Anything on that, Dave?
Yeah, and you should probably know this before you walk into the bank. And just part of your due diligence, you don't want to go to some local bank where all they do is office and industrial lending, and then you're like trying to talk about single family portfolios. I think you can do some of that due diligence and learn over the phone. And what you're going to do is essentially find out who the VP of commercial lending is for this local bank, and look them up on LinkedIn And they're probably going to talk about the types of loans that they do because that's their whole business. That's all they do. So they're probably going to give you some insight there. And you could just give them a call, get on a 15-minute phone call and say, what types of loans do you guys have an appetite for? That's the script, everybody. You know, what do you have an appetite for? Bankers love that type of lingo. Kind of find that out. If they have an appetite for the type of deals that you are doing, that is when you are going to set up an appointment and meet with the VP themselves and go in and shake their hand. And that's when you begin this process here. But yeah, you should find out what type of loans they do so you're not setting up appointments and wasting everybody's time.
Yep. The last couple questions is pretty straightforward. What type of loan programs do you offer? It kind of is in relation to rates and terms earlier on that I said, and then what do you need from me? You know, so typically what they're going to be asking you for are your financials, you know, personal financial statement. They're going to want to see a very organized, we have this resource, schedule of properties. Some people call it real estate owned. Some people call it a property developer schedule. It's all the pertinent information like address, bedrooms, bathrooms, purchase price, renovation amount, scope of work, taxes, insurance, tenant information, ARV, today's ARV, right? And lease term, lease length, right? Obviously rental amount. And so those are just all of the things that they're asking for. So in order to be organized about this, because before we were just kind of writing everything down on paper, is just use a spreadsheet, use an Excel sheet. There is in our resources area, we can show you what we've used. And sometimes these banks will actually send them to you. Like here's the spreadsheet that I need for you to look at to fill out all the pertinent information, right? So Dave touched on a really good thing, and he said that you want to find the VP of commercial lending. You can find them on LinkedIn. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is a LinkedIn profile and it's not like a Facebook profile. Okay. This is probably the time where you want to probably, remove any, any photos of you getting belligerent at the bar and clean up your social media a little bit because they're going to be doing some due diligence on you. They are. They're going to Google you. They're going to know the good, bad, and the ugly. They're going to know if you had some judgments on your credit. They're going to do a credit check, right? They're going to also look in your profile and see if you're, this, that, and the other. If you're a reckless and your profile is just super full of controversy, they're going to think, because look, they're going to see you as a risk, right? They're going to want to see that you are conservative, you're a good money saver. So when you meet these VPs in person, you don't want to be the flashiest person. You want to dress nice. You want to be respectful, right? You want to dress shirt and tie, but you don't want to be going in there with all kinds of jewelry, bling hanging from your face, expensive watches. You're just like, I'm here. You know what I mean? You want to be, you want to act like you are a good steward of money. Let's put it that way. So make sure profiles aren't out there super blatant and what Dave and I like to call belligerent.
So yeah, if you are acting in a belligerent way, but you're looking to get away from that, I'm somebody who I'm very proud that I've been alcohol free for over 7 months. And what I've developed is the ultimate script on how to go out, have a great time, go to bars, go to clubs, and not drink alcohol, and the respectful way to deny a drink or deny alcohol without offending the other person and still have the best time. So if you're interested in that, send me a DM. I'll shoot you over kind of the method I've created. It's helped me quite a bit in quitting drinking alcohol. And by the way, your business will skyrocket, your health will improve, your relationships will improve, you'll have better sex. There's only benefit to quitting drinking alcohol. Happy to help in any way I possibly can.
Yep. And so that's awesome, Dave. That's awesome. And when you're looking for these community banks, what you actually want to do. Like, let's say you want to look in Columbus. The surrounding towns have community banks. The ones that end with, let's just say, Lancaster, right? Savings and loan. So the town, Lancaster is what, 45 minutes away from Columbus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lancaster Savings and Loan, or Newark Credit Union. You want to look, see how many locations they have, because if they have like 5 to 10 locations, it's probably a bigger bank. You want to look for someone that has maybe 1 or 2 around the surrounding areas of your main city. Our main city is Columbus, Ohio. So look, for example, if you're in Dayton, maybe try like Middletown Savings and Loans, or Sydney Savings and Loans, something like that, and contact them. Look who the VP is. Use LinkedIn. Clean up your social media profile. Google yourself and see if there's any negativity out there. Work on getting that cleaned up. And once you meet them, get those questions out. It's more interview process style to see if it's a good fit. Be super respectful, and then watch what type of loan terms and relationships you can create. So, anything else to add, Dave?
Nope. That was pretty much it.
Yep. This is community banking. It's going to be in the modules. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. And if you guys want resources, reach out. We're here to help.
Excellent. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. It's Dave and RJ with the Cream, and we'll see you on the next video.